Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Scenic Root Astrology. My name is Makayla, and I am finally finishing my Ascendant series. Okay, my apologies, Scorpio Risings. It has taken me a little bit to finish the series, but here I am. So, first off, if you have not watched my intro to the Ascendant astrology video, please go watch that. It's about 17 minutes long and it explains all about what the ascendant is. Okay. Gives you a rundown. It doesn't go through the ascendant through any of the signs. That's what this video is for you specific Scorpio risings. But just to understand what the ascendant means and an evolutionary astrology approach, and it helps you learn astrology, go watch that video. Okay. And then you can come back here and watch your Scorpio rising. Okay. So I already know Scorpio risings. You are probably like, what is this girl? What is this astrologer going to tell me about myself that I don't already know? Um, Scorpio risings, you have an intense journey ahead of you. Okay. And a lot of the stuff that I'm going to say is probably going to sound really like heavy, but I want you to know towards the end, this is ultimately about your own self-empowerment. Okay. And this is a very empowering journey that you're on in this lifetime. Okay. Your soul chose to be Scorpio rising for a reason. And one of the questions that I think will be very helpful for you to ask yourself over the course of your life is why? Okay. Why? Why is this situation happening for me? Why is this coming up? Why am I in this partnership? Why am I experiencing this? Okay. Just remember that on the back burner. Okay. And also understand that your rising sign is something that you're learning to become over the entire course of your life. Okay. So these experiences that I'm talking about, that I'm going to explain, you're slowly becoming them. Okay. And they'll be less and less intense for you, hopefully, over time. It's tools like astrology that really help us see things right in front of our face, like see our rising sign and see how it's showing up. Okay. But if you look back earlier in life, before you started using astrology, you can understand why life was so intense. Okay. Life isn't always going to be this intense. Life isn't always going to be about all these dynamics, but you're slowly becoming into your own empowerment journey. Okay. You're slowly learning these scorpionic lessons. Okay. So, what does that mean, right? So, one of the major things that Scorpio risings deal with is a real heavy crisis when it comes to relationship dynamics, okay? And your emotional well-being in this life, okay, in this lifetime. There's going to be experiences that trigger deep-rooted fears and deep-rooted insecurities that you carry, okay? All of us carry insecurities, okay? But one of your lessons, because your soul chose to be Scorpio rising, is to learn emotional empowerment, okay? Deep emotional empowerment throughout this life, okay? Through experiences that trigger things like abandonment, okay? Loss and betrayal, okay? Those become, massive themes that trigger deep emotional experiences and crises in life that bring such heaviness and intensity. Okay. So if you've ever like talked to an astrologer or maybe you've read up online about your rising sign, Scorpio is often described as intense, okay? Intense humans. But they might not feel intense, right? You as a Scorpio rising, you might not feel that you're an intense person, right? You might embody your sun or your moon more, or so forth, right? But that's because your rising sign is what people see you as, okay? It's what people project out at you, right? So they can see you as an intense because life and these situations and these relationships are going to trigger intense situations for you to come into, okay? So like abandonment, for instance, right? Abandonment, say you're abandoned early life, early childhood, one of your parents isn't around, right? For instance, they leave you for whatever reason. Of course, that's going to leave an abandonment wound within the child, okay? And so there's going to be insecurities that is rooted within the child, right? That are unconscious, that are subconscious. And a lot of the fears and a lot of the insecurities that is within Scorpio itself is unconscious, okay? And it is in this lifetime that you will have experiences that trigger these fears that trigger these insecurities that you might not even know are there, that trigger these feelings of loss or abandonment or betrayal from others. They'll trigger those so that you can come and bring those to the surface, okay? Because ultimately, Scorpio is incredibly investigative by nature, right? You know how to figure out a secret. You know how to tell if somebody's lying or telling the truth. You can you can figure out if something is suspicious, right? You're incredibly emotionally intelligent, incredibly emotionally deep, okay? But remember, the rising sign is instinctual within us, okay? So we automatically have it, we automatically do it, but it's unconscious for you, okay? Because you're Scorpio rising. So you might not realize that these experiences that come up, these crises in life, these difficult times that come up for you are, part of your own soul's necessary need to now have this regenerative process, okay? This need to bring healing into yourself, like into your life, okay? Because it's only through these experiences where the things that are unconscious or subconscious within our psyche, and your sign is deeply psychological and deeply emotional. It is only through those experiences when that gets penetrated and it gets brought up to the surface so that you can reveal it, right? So you can look at it. And that's why a lot of, astrology will talk about, Scorpio dealing with death and rebirth, right? Because you constantly go through this regeneration of yourself, right? This regeneration of your soul, right? If you will. And it's also, they often write about Scorpio dealing with like the shadow side, right? I'm sorry, I'm recovering from a cold this week. um the shadow qualities, right, of life, right? The stuff that's hidden, the stuff that are secret, the stuff that things that like people don't want to talk about, or they don't want to say, or they don't want to see within themselves, or they find that that's taboo. On an internal level for Scorpio rising, this isn't taboo terrain. Like the things that most people think are taboo is really usually not taboo for you. You're like, yeah, I already know that within myself. But it's about revealing it, and it's about giving it a voice and bringing it to light, okay, throughout your life, throughout the span of your life, okay? So another thing that will happen is, because there's deep rooted, okay, and I'm this isn't a negative thing. Again, all of us have insecurities and fears, okay? Yours are just in the spot for your chart because they're your Scorpio rising, they're on the forefront, okay? There, because of these deep rooted insecurities that are unconscious that can drive the soul, okay? Because remember, the ascendant is our natural instinct. So these things can naturally instinctually drive you, but you won't know them until you heal them. Then they don't drive your life anymore, okay? But in the beginning, in the early stages of learning and overcoming and transforming your ascendant, okay, which again is a lifelong journey. It just, you get more wise as you get older, okay? As time goes on, you get better at these things in life. Early on, there can be needs for control or manipulation, right? Or at least you know that you have the power of that, because you do, honestly. And we want to use our powers for good. But Scorpio rising is super, super, super emotionally, instinctively intelligent, right? You are investigative by nature. You are emotionally intelligent, right? Psychic by nature. You can spot things out, right, from a mile away. You can, like I said earlier, when somebody is lying or telling the truth. You also know how to tap into somebody else's unconscious vulnerabilities because you can sense it, right? Or unconscious fears. So for some Scorpio risings, you can use those powers for either good or bad, right? So sometimes there's a need to manipulate or control partner, right? Your seventh house, the opposite side. And the need for the domination is significant because you want to feel emotionally secure, right? Because if you don't feel emotionally secure, then that vulnerability gets triggered, right? That vulnerability spot that you have, right? That trust or that safety spot that's some unconscious that gets triggered, right? And then what happens, what arises, is Scorpio's necessary defense mechanisms, right? Well, I will penetrate you, right? You are naturally the Scorpio, or the Phoenix Rising by nature, right? So you can singe people, you can create transformation, like you can bring death and rebirth to any situation, right? You can definitely use your Scorpio stinger if you want. But the ultimate goal here and the ultimate healing and the ultimate evolutionary journey for Scorpio risings is to get really comfortable in those places of fear and vulnerability and learn that you can bring your own rejuvenation. Okay. The first thing you do is you heal yourself in these situations. You bring your own rejuvenation, your own inner transformation within yourself. And when you do that in a healthy approach, you become wicked empowered. You have a life force, a death and rebirth essence within you, right? That is a powerful thing to embody. That is a powerful thing to hold. That can be a weapon in itself, okay? And ultimately what you learn is you go through this process and you become so self-empowered and so strong because you've realized that the regeneration is the empowerment itself, right? And then you realize that there are deep emotional, metaphysical, psychological, even mystical qualities about this death and rebirth process that happens on an emotional terrain that brings a regenerative and healing essence and healing quality to you and how you present yourself to the rest of the world, right? Because ultimately the rising sign, right? It's how you're meeting the world. It's how your people are seeing you as a human being. So you can really use these difficult situations, right? These times of crisis in your life, these times of disempowerment in your life, you can use them as deep healing and learning experiences to heal your own self, regenerate your own body, regenerate your own soul, right? On a very deep emotional level. And you learn to meet incredibly deep, vulnerable parts of yourself, which requires a human being to master things like truth and honesty. Okay. And that is something that I think a lot of Scorpio risings find is a non negotiable. Okay. A non-negotiable when it comes to your relationships. You want honesty and you want vulnerability, right? And you want truth and you want transparency. Because if you can have those in your relationships, right? If you can meet life with that, right? You're requiring that back at you. Because when you can see the truth, when you can see the honesty, then you don't have to worry about controlling things or people because of they might lie or they might manipulate, right? I hope this is making sense because it's so important for Scorpio risings. Because if you find yourself in an environment that you need to control, you need to manipulate, it's a good chance that it's time to look back at yourself and be honest and more vulnerable and truthful with yourself and ask yourself, why am I in that partnership then? If I can't feel safe and secure, and if I can't feel vulnerable in that partnership, in that relationship, if I can't feel stable in that relationship, why am I in that myself, right? What is it about myself that I'm not being truthful and honest with? Okay. You master these things. You literally master these things, which are incredibly powerful things to master within living in this human experience, right? Having a human experience, especially because we're emotional beings and we're wired for human connection, which is a Scorpio thing, right? Learning intimacy with life is a Scorpio quality. Wanting, craving intimacy are Scorpio qualities, right? When you learn and you master being honest and vulnerable with yourself and having this self-empowered strength within you, okay, this instinctual strength within you, and you learn what that means to have emotional wisdom, right? And a natural tendency to be a healer if you so choose. You then can present yourself to the world and you teach others the incredible lessons and importance of meeting your fears, meeting your deepest vulnerabilities, right? And that process of death and renewal and how it is capable and how we all go through times of crisis. We all have fears and intensities that we have to meet. We all have painful situations that we have to meet. You just become this walking, thriving, living example over time that is an empowered version of that as somebody who has been through that. right? I can teach you that. I can heal with you through that, right? If you so choose. Many of you make incredible energy workers, psychotherapists, therapists. Many of you find yourself in some type of way of transforming energy, whether that is, on the material plane in some way, depends on the rest of your chart, or on an emotional landscape with people. Many of you find yourself in situations where you're working with others and you're working through the real intense processes of life. And that is just what it is. Scorpio rising, it's not a bullshit sign. You meet life with an intensity. Life embodies intensity. There is sunshine, there is rainbows in your life, right? But you also are super, super hyper aware that there are fears and vulnerabilities that need to be brought to the light. And the more that we uncover those shadows and the more that we meet those dead on with self-empowerment, okay, the stronger human beings we become, and the more emotional self-mastery and the more healed we become overall, okay? And that's really a part of your journey, Scorpio rising. So if you liked this video, if this resonated with you, which I hope it did, please give me a like, please give me a subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you leave a comment and you share this video with other people that you think it could help. It's going to help my channel grow. It would be a nice energy exchange between you and I. And yeah, so I'll be back again soon, guys. Thank you so much.